I'm still free. You can't take the sky from me. Take me out to the blast. Tell 'em I ain't coming back. Burn the land and boil the sea. You can't take the sky from me.
You can't take the sky, you can't take the vote. There's no place I can't be since I found democracy. Yes, I fought for the losing side in 2016, but I'm still not convinced it was the wrong side. My name is Chad Lupkes. I'm a grassroots activist in North Seattle. I'd like to thank you for watching Uphill Media, and I'd like to thank their volunteer crew for producing this show. If you can, please go to patreon.com/uphillmedia to show your support. And as we're talking, please use the hashtag #ChadTalksWith and share the show on your social media feeds. Let's build the audience and grow the show. Please like this video on Facebook, subscribe to the Uphill Media channel, and share the video link on your social media feeds. You're more than the audience, you are the revolution, and with your help, it will be televised. My goal for this series of shows is to engage, inspire, educate, and empower the activists who make up the political revolution all over the country. My guest tonight is Dan Rolle, who was a candidate for Congress in Nevada, in Nevada's 4th Congressional District in 2016. And he has a number of things to talk about. But the first thing that I want to start out after introductions is about the election yesterday. So first, Dan, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Chad, good evening. Good evening. First of all, I think the real guest of tonight's show is that shirt. I love it. I really love it. So that's a winner. So
my wife, when I started getting into politics, like in 2005, she started buying me these kinds of shirts every birthday, every Christmas. I've got a whole closet full out there, and this is just the one that I like to wear on this camera because it shows up really well.
Good. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's definitely something to look forward to for sure. So I love it. It's very patriotic. We need more of that.
What do you think? Well, okay. Just one last thing on that.
Yeah.
Because we have a clown in the White House, I say dial the patriotism up to 11.
I love it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So what do you think about the election yesterday?
We're talking about Georgia 6, right?
Georgia 6.
Yeah, and for some context, this one kind of crept up in for the national media. And if we get time tonight, I'd love to talk about national media fake news and what that means for all of us too. But it's crept on a lot of people's radars. But obviously in Georgia, we were filling the seat for Tom Price. We had a special election. As they say, special elections are always special. But the Democrats had a really unique opportunity in the runoff election. And runoffs are weird anyway, but if the Democrats had pulled 50% plus one vote, they would win the seat outright. No need for further elections. Bam, the Democrats take back a very important seat in the House in a congressional district that the Republicans have held since the 70s. I mean, we're talking this. Newt Gingrich came from this congressional district. Obviously, Tom Price came from the district. I think Romney won the district by something like 23 points. And it's a huge Republican area. And, a lot of excitement because there was a lot of early turnout for the Dems. And, as people started following that race, it looked really, really positive. What we saw last night was that John Ossoff was not able to crack that 50% plus one vote. So that means there's going to be a runoff. There's a lot to unpack in what I just said, though. Because there's a lot more that happened really behind the scenes. And
well, just on the vote yesterday, as I was watching the results come in, he stayed above 50% until they got to like 70 or 80% turnout, or 80% of the precincts actually reporting. So he was there, and he kept bouncing just above the 50% line until those final votes came in from the precincts in the county where his main Republican opponent was really strong. Yeah, and that's when he started dipping down.
Yeah, and there's a lot of victories for progressives that in that fight. Voter turnout was gigantic, and I don't want to take any credit away. There was really, really good effort on the ground behind the sheer amount of voters that came out in support of Ossoff. I mean, we can't take that away from yesterday as anything other than a big success. You know, unfortunately, in the White House, we have someone who is capable of crafting a very strong message, and Trump's able to run with this sort of, you know, this 48% victory where John's leading, and then say, hey, you know, I kept out a Democrat from Congress. So it's part of that bigger messaging issue. I think what scares me about Georgia 6 is early signs that I'm seeing, just flashbacks to 2016 already. I think, you know, a lot of people know, a lot of people don't know. The Democrats spent $8.3 million in the special election. And there's a lot of outside celebrity endorsements for John. And that concerns me that, you know, we didn't learn enough lessons from what happened in 2016. And the sort of bigger problem, which is Democrats at the larger level, really good at getting big money into the party. You know, how are we spending that on it?
Right. Yeah. We're not really good at using it effectively.
Yeah. And strategically, you know, if you just look at that $8 million, I could carve that $8 million up 100 ways. And how many other ways could we be pushing progressives in at the local level, the state level, the national level? And, you know, going forward, for OSEF to be competitive, they're going to have to spend another $8 million, another $10, another $12 million. And, you know, the absurdity of having to spend for a 2-month campaign, maybe $8, $10, $12 million on a candidate. I mean, that's really scary for me. But if you
look at the number of votes, I mean, all of the Democrats, all three of the Democrats in that race got a total of 93,911 votes, and we spent $8 million for that.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, each of the congressional districts in Georgia started at about 692,000 people in 2012 when the redistricting commission finished the job. So 690,000 versus 93,000 with a total. What was the total again? It was a total of 192,000 people voted in the special election. Now that's not bad for a special election, but because of the amount of effort that's going to be put over the next couple months to make, you know, for the June 20th runoff, that number is going to go crazy. It's going to go up, and we need to help John as much as we ever have. I think you're right, but we also have a couple other special elections to work on, like Montana and whatever else. I mean, they're all over the place.
And so, you know, it's easy to talk about Georgia 6 the day before the election, or a couple days before, or the day after. You know, one thing for people to really put on your calendars, this is a crucial test, and it's a crucial moment for what is the DNC willing to do? What are progressive organizations? What are, you know, I try to stay away from that grassroots word because I think everybody's getting sick of it. And it's instead, like, what is happening on the ground? You know, how much are Democrats listening on the ground to what people are saying? And, you know, what does that look like in the next 2 months? Are the, you know, what percentage of that 93,000 is going to be discouraged that John didn't get 50+1? And, you know, are we able to keep those people motivated, keep them inspired, and get them back to the polls in June? And that's a big test.
Right. Or engage different people and get more people. But the other thing that I want to stress, and I've stressed the entire time that I've been involved, is there's infrastructure that needs to be laid here. I mean, the 6th congressional district takes up part of Fulton, Cobb, and DeKalb counties. Okay, I looked up the Democratic Party organizations in those. Cobb doesn't even have a website.
Wow.
They don't even have that. And if you look on the New York Times website, the results page, it'll show you how well the candidates did in each of those 3 counties. And you can see that Cobb County is the lowest number. It's like, that's because Democrats are not laying any groundwork. They're not laying any track. They're not putting down any infrastructure or any roots. And the thing is, the county central committees do exist out there. I know who the chair is, but they're not helping those local organizations make long-term connections with those communities.
Sure.
And that's what's been missing for years.
And I think that's where, for people who might be tuning in for the first time tonight, or people who maybe it's your second or third show, or people who are just starting to get that fire like Chad has around, you know, how do I get involved? It takes so long from that first, like, I want to get involved and make a difference, to finding out what you have to do to actually be involved at a city, state, and local level. And to your point, it has to do with infrastructure. One of the reasons that people aren't getting involved at that ground level is these things are boring. I got to be honest with you. County committee meetings, central committee meetings, they're horrendous. And
Yeah,
we
I've
have a
got one
lot.
tomorrow night.
Yeah, we've
I've
got a
got
lot of work to do to get people excited about showing up and participating. And we also have to be honest, Republicans are really good in this field. They're very, very good in this field. And
they've been building infrastructure since the 70s.
Yeah. And they have a sort of baked in base right now that's not going anywhere. It's not going in. I mean, it's getting older. That's for sure, but it's really not going anywhere. And what Georgia 6 also shows us is, it goes to that point of infrastructure. As a party, we are becoming very reliant on early voting. And unfortunately, the return on investment of all of the energy, all of the effort, and all the money we're spending in that period of time, I think it's time that we start having a question. I love early voting. I think it's great. It's easy. If you can go 3 weeks before the election on your way home from work and vote, I think that's great. But what we're learning election after election after election is Democrats sweep a huge momentum in early voting, and then on election day, it's gone. And
I watched the graph of the results coming in last night, and so much of that early voting was Democrats voting for John.
Yep.
And then it just kept going down until it finally went below the 50% mark. And I think that's one of the main reasons for that is Democrats that I have seen all over the country, they're focused on election day. They're focused on get out the vote. They're not worried as much about get out the voice, or they're not worried about long-term relationships. And it's the long-term relationships that I've been saying for years that we need to build.
Sure.
And the other thing that I want to say about Georgia is Georgia Congressional District 6 was not the only special election yesterday, even in Georgia.
Yep.
Their state Senate District 32 also had a special election. And the Democrat, or one of the Democrats in that race, one of three, was the top vote getter again at 24%. Now, the thing is, and this goes back to the long-term infrastructure, okay, the total that Democrats received was about 40%. Republicans received 60%. So that's going to be a very hard race for Christine Trybust. But we got to help her as well, because the thing is, even if we go into a race knowing that we're only going to likely get 40%, we still go in with a positive campaign saying this is what the Democrats, this is what a progressive agenda would do. And we need to show the voters in all of those districts that our candidates will do right by you.
Sure.
Because that's the only way that we're going to build those long-term relationships. How are things going in Nevada? I mean, in that way, to transition back to your state, how are you doing building long-term relationships in Nevada to do that kind of infrastructure development?
So I think part of the work that has to be done and that we are doing is messaging. And you talked about that infrastructure piece. And I was talking to Megan earlier about this today. A lot of the sort of focus right now is very immediate. Special election, 2 years, even 2020. And I started to think, like, in my memory, in the history recently, what is a metaphor? And I have to think all the way back to World War II, and I have to start thinking about Winston Churchill in Britain, a long, protracted, painful campaign. The citizens of his country, who stood alone against the Axis power for over a year before being joined. You think day after day after day of gloomy, dark, bombardment in the Blitz or the Battle at Dunkirk. We have to really start to be honest with people and accept and understand that this is a very long-term strategy.
Yeah,
and
I call it the long game. You're absolutely right.
You're gonna have situations like yesterday, which still I think is a big victory, but you're going to have crucial losses. You're going to have rough days. You're going to have tough days. But we have to paint this bigger picture and a bigger vision, which makes that all worthwhile, which makes people want to get up on a Saturday or a Thursday evening and go out to their local organization and show up at a meeting that might not be fun right now. Get involved, call the party chair until you get on, find out how that happens, and don't give up. And I think the system right now is very obviously designed to keep you out. You know that by now. It's designed to be inaccessible.
I've been involved since 2003, and I have seen that wax and wane depending on what the needs were for an election season. Sure. And what I've been trying to tell people is, can we get away from that mentality? Can we do something and engage with people where they are with the issues that they care about, so that even if we're not in some kind of really important election season, people are still wanting to be engaged, that we still do have an open door that people want to walk through to be able to get something done.
Sure. And so to answer your question about Nevada, Nevada was a real hot flashpoint in 2016. It was a crucial battleground state. A ton of resources on both sides poured into Nevada, and really the source of quite a bit of scandal. In fact, in the news this week and last week, we're still now learning about some of the electoral problems in the state of Nevada, but specifically with the Democratic Party, very entrenched. It's the state of Harry Reid, very closed door institutional access to the party. And, as a result, and I want to throw out some big props to a new charter in Clark County in Nevada, the Nevada Progressive Coalition, led by Aaron Bilbray, a bunch of other really, really great people. Christine Kramer's in it, who took that long game approach and said, okay, here's the plan. We need to get people to show up and be a part of this party and be a part of this organization, and we need to start making it fun. And they've done a great job. And so the result of that is that you see, and this is not just in Nevada, you see it all over, like Washington's another good example, where people getting involved, they're now taking over the majority of these local and state party committees. And then, with that comes the real power to start controlling how are we spending the money, how are we getting people involved, how are we getting people to the polls. And that certainly happened here. A couple of weekends ago, almost the entire board of the Clark County Dems stepped down because the writing's on the wall. When you have 400 committee member seats and 300 of them are brand new progressives, yes. That's exciting. And I think if you're the chair of that board, or if you're in finance on that board, seeing the writing on the wall.
We had the same thing happen in Washington. Yeah. I mean, I started planning for that last May because the way our process works in Washington state, and this is an important thing for the audience here, every state is going to be different. Every state has a different set of bylaws, rules, a calendar, etc. Some of them apply state law differently. In Washington, we actually file for precinct committee officer at the precinct level in May of an even year. We run in a primary, and then we take office as PCOs on December 1st for a 2-month reorganization cycle. And I'm listening to people like you from other states, and I'm saying, okay, that's our process in Washington. How is your process designed in Nevada to either let the grassroots in from the ground up or prevent them from coming in by putting blocks in the path? What's the timeline for people getting involved at a local county level or state central committee level to be able to find, who votes for your state party chair? Those kinds of things, and then who votes for them.
And without offense to the party system in Washington, I'm just sitting here listening. I'm thinking to myself, my God, that's terrible. Like, I'm just thinking, I'm thinking of someone who works 2 part-time jobs, who wants to get involved, and I'm thinking, like, how are they even going to find out? And it's not easy to find out. How they, let alone make the time to do that. And Clark Clark County and Nevada is not dissimilar. In Nevada, we break out our voting districts by precincts similarly, and then those precincts have committee members. You can nominate yourself to be a committee member in Nevada at the county level, at the state level, and then you are, assuming no one challenges your eligibility to be on that position, you are let in if there are spots available. It's not necessarily difficult in terms of the process, but you have to spend a lot of time digging, understanding, knowing where to go. And I think for the person who's just now getting involved, the 26-year-old who's mad about Trump right now, the path from I'm mad about Trump to I'm sitting on a committee spot in Nevada or in Washington is so difficult to navigate. And yeah, there are people who are super smart who figure that out. But part of what we need to do as a party is we need to make it easier. We need to make it fun. We need to make those Thursday night meetings entertaining, right? We need to make the Saturday afternoon meetings like, you've got to have like 4 people leave that meeting, or 400 people leave that meeting and say like, I just did this. It was awesome. You have to come with me next time.
Yeah.
That's not what happens. People leave those meetings and they go, when is this going to be over? Oh my God, this is so boring. Right? That's what happens.
At my county central committee, our executive board meetings, we've spent the last 2 months working on an update to the bylaws so that we can get our committees established so that we can get to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is something that people do need to realize. These meetings that we're going to, that we're talking about, they are business meetings, and there is business that needs to be conducted. We do have adjustments to the bylaws with new people coming in because new people in leadership have new ideas for what they want to do. That takes changes to the rules. There are processes for getting those rules updated. So we have to go through those motions. And how do we do that and make a meeting interesting enough for a new PCO or for somebody who's walking in wondering, how do I fight against, a clown in the White House, to get them to come back and learn again and again and again. It's not an easy thing to do unless you are a national level presidential candidate with a great speech.
Right. Exactly.
Bernie brought in so many people who said, I just want to make a difference. And I tried doing training sessions on the caucus in Washington saying, okay, this is how you make a difference. And I got blank stares going, oh my God, it takes that much? It's like, yeah. And we've been doing it since 1889.
Yeah.
It's like,
right.
There's infrastructure. That's the infrastructure. And that's a disadvantage of the infrastructure versus new energy, because we all have a role to play in the entire process.
Yeah, Chad, I think you're right. I think you're talking about exactly the kind of things that need to happen. Certainly, like as a party, we need to do some introspection on what is the ROI on continuing down this path. You're right. Their business has to be done. We have to, we can't just let everyone, if we have a room of 200 people and, there's an agenda that has to happen, there's got to be some structure and framework. I think what we're learning in county after county, state after state is the rules aren't keeping up with technology, the times, let's be honest, people's attention level, and the amount of time that people can invest in that. So yeah, you're right. We're not going to fix that overnight. That's why it goes back to that argument. The first conversation that we need to start having with people is that conversation of, hey, you need to buckle your seatbelt. This is going to be a long process. Right. Let's get going.
But technology can help.
Sure.
Shows like this. I remember during the primary, I would do shows like this on a couple different channels saying, okay, just throw me your questions about how the process works, about what the next stage in the caucus cycle is, or what's the next state going to go in, going to be going over the next week, and how can people get involved, or what's the long-term plan? And technology like this, like these shows, like these interviews, and going into depth about issues we've got so much potential. What kind of technology are you guys using in Nevada? I can give you an example of something that happened here in Washington. We've actually changed our rules to allow broadcasts like this to be used by people who are disabled and can't leave their home. So that means they can watch and participate.
Sure.
Are you guys doing anything like that in Nevada with technology?
It's actually a big focal point right now. Believe it or not, the Central Committee meetings, it is, you can be removed from Central Committee for streaming the Central Committee meeting. It's crazy, right? Like
Wow.
if you stream, you put it on Facebook, you take a picture, you post on Facebook, you can be removed from the meeting. Right?
I can understand privacy on the one hand, but if you announce it at the beginning of the meeting saying, anybody who is not comfortable being on camera, let us know and we'll turn it off while you're speaking, but then we're going to turn it back on again because people out there need to know what's going on.
Yeah, I think in Nevada, it's more specific to sort of what happened after a lot of, after the conventions where a lot of sort of mythical evil beasts were created as the result of what happened at the state convention, specifically, fake invisible chairs being thrown in Nevada. But I think, even if someone, Chad, doesn't want to go through that process, I get the question all the time, what can I do? How can I be involved? And I think, obviously you and I, we could talk about that for 3 hours tonight, and we could go on and on and on. I think the message that I maybe want to share as we kind of get ready to wrap up is, I was relatively unengaged from that infrastructure level at politics. If you look back 2 years ago, it's pretty quiet guy. Not super, to be honest with you, not super happy with where my life was. And something about 2016 changed when I went to a Clinton rally, and to make the room look full, they squeezed up the bleachers, and they had to keep squeezing the bleachers closer and closer to the stage to make the room look full. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, oh my God, this is what happens that eventually controls my life when these people get to Washington, D.C. Right. And, probably for no amazingly great reason, after a lot of introspection, I decided I wanted to run for Congress. And, we could talk about the math of why, I thought that was a great idea later. But that experience, even though I lost, and I lost like, you imagine like a bug getting squished by a boot. Like I was like the bug underneath the bug that got squished.
I've seen the results. Let's not talk about
them. But the experience changed my life. And
that's awesome.
And
we do need to talk about what you're going to be doing over the next couple of months. I hear you've got a new book deal.
Yeah, I'm happy to announce that with Live Right Publishing and W.W. Norton, we're going to tell the story of that election and what I learned. There's a ton of amazing stories. And it really was in the middle of a very hot presidential election. So many great stories about what happened locally and nationally and why you should get involved, but also some advice if you're looking to run for office, what that does to your life and the amazing people you'll meet and what will happen to you afterwards. And that book's called Citizen Candidate. It'll be out soon. We would love to come back on and chat about it when it does come out for sure.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
We do have a question from Maniac DVB, and that is to either one of us. Do the state and local parties have listening sessions or live Q&A events that are opening to the public, that they are opening to the public? Well, in Washington, I can tell you, the King County Democrats have an open mic portion of the agenda right at the beginning of the executive board meetings that happen every month, where anybody can come and anybody can talk and everybody can express a frustration or it's sort of like good of the order, which is normally at the very end of the meeting, but we've pulled it to the front to make sure that everybody is there to hear it. And that was because a lot of people were complaining about having to wait through the entire 4-hour meeting before getting a chance to talk. So we pulled it to the beginning. What are they doing like that in Nevada? Anything that you've seen?
So we have not made that change. And if you do want something to say, you're going to have to wait to the end of the meeting. At that time, that's when people kind of start filtering out. There are a lot of what is happening to that degree is happening at the individual charter level, at the individual Democratic club level. So there is a lot of that happening. It's not happening at the level that is affecting policy within the party. And I think that's pretty consistent state to state, as I understand it right now. So I think that's a great idea, putting that out front. It can really set the tone. So
even if you just limit it to like 6 minutes of 3 speeches, 2 minutes each, just so 3 people can sign up and give something, or give a speech, or talk about something that's really important to them right at the beginning where everybody's there. Even just 6 minutes worth.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Let's see. You have something coming up soon. I hear Bernie is coming to Nevada. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's one of the first stops on the Unity tour with Tom. He'll be here Saturday, and I'm super excited to see Bernie again. I got to tell you, a lot of energy. It's a crucial moment for the DNC. It's a crucial moment for Perez. I'm gonna be honest with you. There's a lot of disenfranchised progressives in Nevada, and
Washington too.
Yeah, I'll be streaming live on Saturday. I think it's going to be a good show. Hopefully it achieves the effect, but if it doesn't, I think that there's conversations that still need to be had. So.
Right. Okay. That's our normal half hour. Is there anything that you wanted? Anything else besides your book deal and this weekend with Bernie Sanders and Tom Perez? Any other events happening in Nevada that people should know about?
I think from Nevada, it's going to be very interesting. I guess what I would say is Nevada is going to be another one of those key litmus test states. As Democrats, we're talking about 2018, and we're talking a lot about that. And I want to tell you that Republicans are laser focused already on 2020. And it's another example of, we have to move quickly. We have to continue to build the infrastructure that you're talking about. Yeah. Not anything, I'll definitely let you know how the Unity tour goes. And I'll say again, if you don't know what you can do at a local level in your city, your state, you can tweet me. You can tweet it. Chad, you can send us a message on Facebook. I promise you, we will help you find out what that is. If we can't, we'll find someone who can sit down with you, or Skype you, or call you on the phone and say, like, here's what you got to do. And I'll be honest with you, it's not for everyone. So if that's not for you, we'll find you something else that you can do. And I think tuning into a show like tonight, I know, Chad, I know you love having your audience on. I think it's great. As I said earlier, please support. Please go in at Patreon, right? You guys are on Patreon?
Patreon,
please,
Uphill Media.
Yeah, please go to, if you like the show, if you want to hear more of Chad, if you want to contribute to the shirt fund, go and please do so. Please do so. And not every way that you can contribute to your political agenda has to be financial. I'm sure that if you want to maybe volunteer to help out on a show sometime, I'm sure they'd love that just as much. So thank you for having me on tonight.
You bet. I will say, though, the next special election that is on the calendar is May 25th in Montana. Rob Quist is running. So there's going to be phone banking opportunities coming out about that all over the place. There's a bunch of different organizations that are popping up all over. Indivisible has events that are much more fun than just business party meetings. And they go into issues and you talk to neighbors. There's a couple other organizations, Sister District. They are focused on trying to help from outside a district or even outside of a state, and focusing on ways that people can get engaged and involved all across the county or all across the country. And then social media is on fire, thanks to the clown in the White House.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned phone banking, and I get that question all the time. Yep. I guess my last thought is just, that's one really good example. It is really scary if you've never done it before. That first call can be very terrifying. Yeah. But that's another example of get in the arena and push yourself to just say, I'm just going to make this one phone call. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be brave. And then what you will find is you're going to find that little spark and that energy. and it will pay off somewhere else too for you, you know, whether that's in your job or your personal life. Just stand up to that cliff and hit that dialing button and make that call. And once you get past that first one, it might be a train wreck, but on the other end of that train wreck, you're going to feel really, really good about yourself. So thanks again, Chad.
You bet. All right. I don't have a closing video this time. I'm looking for one for next time. Thank you, Dan, very much for joining us. And next week, we will have Timothy Vandeveer. He is the chair of the Hawaiian Democratic Party, and I will continue to reach out to party chairs, local party chairs in any state. And if you're interested in being a guest on the show, please get in touch with us. My Twitter is Chad Lupkes, ChadLupkes. If you do a search for my name, you'll find me just about anywhere. I'd love to have you on as a guest. And with that, we'll close the show down. Have a good evening and stay engaged.
Thanks, Chad.